Thank you for joining today to our webinar, How to Comply with ISO 9001 in a Digital World. I'm Kevin Devecioglu. I'm the Managing Director of Bimser International. Today, we put together a great panel for you. We have Alex Kvartikov from MRAS Consulting. He is a certified ISO 9001 auditor that he is with us today. Thank you, Alex. Welcome. Also, we have Anderson Wang. He is pre-sales software engineer of Bimser International. And right after Alex, he'll be talking about QDMS, our quality, compliance, and risk management software. Before I let Alex take over the presentation, I'd like to talk briefly about Bimser International, about who we are and what we do. So, Bimser International is an enterprise software maker since 1998. We are actually a group of companies. Our software development center and our headquarters, global headquarters, is based in Istanbul metro area, where the yellow dot is. You'll see in a minute on the map. And we have another company is called Bimser Europe for our European operations. And Bimser International is based in New York. So as a group, we are about 150 people. We work day and night. Most of us are computer engineers, software engineers. Bimser is a certified SAP vendor, a Microsoft Gold Microsoft partner, and Acumatica independent software vendor. Bimser is also certified. Bimser has ISO 9001 certification, ISO 27001 certification, and there's a certification of Ping Verify for our solution called IBA ITSM for IT Service Management and ITIL. In essence, as a company, we are a digital transformation enabler. We help companies digitally transform themselves, and we help them simplify their processes. So let's talk about our product range a little bit. Since 1998, we have been very focused. We have developed only 4 products that makes us a specialist. IBA is our workflow, document management, and intelligent data capture platform. It's also an enterprise content management platform in a sense. We have BEAM for asset maintenance, facility, and energy management operations. It helps companies manage their assets, cars, trucks, equipment, facility, for maintenance operations and for cost management. QDMS that we'll talk more about today is our quality, risk, and compliance management software. It helps companies comply with various standards, such as ISO 9001, ISO 14001, SQF, ERC, and more. And finally, Ensemble is a business process management tool. How we position our products? Ensemble, in essence, is a managerial tool. It helps companies manage their strategies and performances. On the other hand, IBA, BEAM, and QDMS, they automate processes. So 4 of our products, they can work standalone. They can be integrated with each other. They can be integrated with any ERP, any CRM platform available in the marketplace. Our products work on cloud. They work on-premise servers, and they have mobile apps available. So we have up-to-date technology, and we keep investing in our products. Here you can see how many customers we have globally. So as you can see, we have been doing it for a while, since 1998. So we have many clients in different parts of the world. As for IBA, we have deployed it more than 520 times. As for BEAM, we have deployed BEAM more than 340 times. As for QDMS, that we'll talk more about today, we have deployed more than 900 times. And as for Ensemble, we have deployed it more than 180 times and still counting. Here you can see some of our references available globally. For instance, 3M is one of our clients using our products in 17 different countries. We have United Nations as one of our references using our product for refugee tracking, for documentation and record management purposes. We have Arcade movie theaters in California using our workflow engine for purchasing operations. We have Ford and Renault-Nissan Alliance. They are using our products in production operations. We have AstraZeneca in pharmaceutical industry. We have Bridgestone in tire and manufacturing industry. We have more references available on our website. So in essence, historically, we are coming from enterprise market. That's why we have these great and reputable references available. In addition to this, we also help support small and mid-sized companies as well in their journey to digital transformation and help them simplify their processes. The reason being, our products are scalable. They can scale up, they can scale down. So we are ready to help support any company, any size, in any vertical. Well, I think enough said on Bimser International. That's who we are and what we do in essence. Now, what I like to do is I like to turn it to Alex. He's our expert in this webinar. He's a certified ISO 9001 auditor, and I'm gonna let him continue from now on. Alex, would you like to take it from here?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kevin, and thank you for inviting me for this webinar. And what I intend to do is to cover very briefly the ISO 9001 fundamentals, and this is the subject matters that I will cover today. So what is ISO 9001 standard? Obviously, the ISO 9001 is based on a quality management system that your organization needs to have. So we'll discuss that. Then we'll address why is ISO 9001 good for your organization. We'll go over basically how ISO 9001 works in your organization. Namely, we'll address the plan, do, check, act cycle. Then we'll briefly discuss the milestones in how to achieve ISO certification, and then also how to maintain certification once you have achieved it. And then I will very briefly discuss how does the QDMS tool support the ISO implementation. And then we'll close with the summary and conclusion. Okay, so what is the 9001 standard? Well, it goes back to about 1987, and ISO stands for International Organization for Standardization. And this was agreed by a number of ISO member nations. So ISO is a universal standard. It's accepted all over the world. Now, to be certified to ISO 9001 or to any of the ISO standards, you have to implement a quality management system, and we'll discuss that very briefly, what it is. The ISO 9001 is basically a fundamental standard that's used as a basis for a lot of different other standards. And there are more than what I've listed here. There's ISO 14001, which is used for environmental management. There's an automotive ISO. There's an ISO specifically for aerospace, for medical devices, and it goes on and on and on. And actually, there are new ISO standards formulated every year. But ISO 9001 has the structure. It was modified, by the way, in 2015. So the latest standard for ISO 9001 is the 2015 standard. And the structure for it is very, very similar, almost identical to all the other ISO standards. So once we've discussed ISO 9001, it really applies to all of the ISOs. Okay, so what is the quality management system? Well, it's basically a set of documents that includes your internal processes, the procedures, the policies. Policies may be internal and external, such as regulatory directives, and records. And records is internal data that you generate as part of running your business. So these documents then form the rules that apply to your company, and this is how you are proceed with either your product or services that you create and provide to your customers. Now, a successful QMS needs to be designed around very specific requirements that for your company and for the product and the services it provides. And again, it's tailored to your company so that every business has its own specific rules and policies, but however, they have to satisfy the ISO 9001 standard. Now, and this is, by the way, available online. ISO has published the quality management principles, and there are 7 that are the basis for managing ISO. And probably you can tell from those principles that ISO, even though it's called quality management principles, it's really business management because it really extends beyond the quality. Quality obviously is a very important aspect of running your business, but obviously there are other factors that need to be considered. So the 7 elements or principles of ISO is customer focus, which is number 1, the most important consideration here is obviously you want to deliver a quality product to your customer on time. Leadership is your management has to be involved in the entire core of ISO. In other words, it's not just left to your quality people to deal with it, but management has to be involved in all aspects of your business, which obviously includes ISO. Engagement of the people, that means that everybody in the organization has to know what are the objectives of ISO and what is their role in making the organization succeed. Process approach. I mentioned before that part of the QMS, quality management system, is developing processes for your business. And processes are really activities that take place to produce either your end service or your end product. And you could have only a few processes, or you can have hundreds of processes, depending on the nature of your business. But all the processes that are part of your business have to be identified, defined, and monitored to make sure that all the elements, parts of your organization work properly. Improvement. Another key element of ISO is continual improvement. You're never perfect. You always try to improve yourself, but you always identify issues, problems that need to be addressed, and that's part of the ISO principle is continual improvement. And we'll talk about it a little later on how this could be implemented. The next element is evidence-based decision making, and because now, as part of ISO, you will be collecting a lot of data about how your business performs, and this data consists of records. So the decisions how to make improvements have to be based on data. It's not guesswork. Like if something fails, or if you have a failure in a component, you should have enough data to analyze it and then make the right decisions to correct the problem. And the last item is relationship management. Now, what it means is that since the new version of ISO involves not just strictly running your business, but it involves the context of your organization, it involves external forces, regulatory forces, and your customers, your suppliers. All of that requires management that deals not only with just getting your product or service out the door, but how do you integrate all of your internal and external forces. So that's what is really meant by relationship management. Okay, so why is really ISO good for your company? Well, first of all, as we already discussed, it improves customer satisfaction. So a happy customer, obviously, you build a good reputation, and hopefully you'll get more sales. And the next item is increase your revenue and profitability. Now, I just want to point out that ISO does not directly manage your finances, but indirectly, you will see increased revenue and profitability because you should have more sales and you should be more efficient in how you manage your business. So overall, you will see an improvement in your bottom line. Enhance your credibility and image. Well, if you're ISO certified, you get a plaque, and you can certainly on your website and in your literature identify that you're ISO certified, and that conveys the image about your company that you're organized, you're structured properly, and you are set up for continuous improvement, and that your goal is to make happy customers. And recently, a number of customers actually require you to be ISO certified. In other words, they would not deal with you unless you have that certificate. Again, this ISO will help you improve your evidence for decision making. As we talked about that, because now you have data that you collect. Based on the data, you can make better decisions. Create a continual improvement culture. Well, that's the core of ISO. Is you should look at improving the whole processes. Both to make it more efficient and improve the quality of the product. We already mentioned efficiency, and that's efficiency will improve your bottom line. Better process integration. Once you identify all your processes, then you can look at how they're all integrated. And this is really kind of tied into lean thinking, because once you see how your processes are defined, how you can now improve and make your activities much more efficient. And, finally, engagement of the workforce. Now, your workforce should be aware what the goals are of the organization. And once they understand that, it becomes ingrained in your company. So overall, that's the benefits that you should achieve with ISO. And this is basically a pictorial description of what is happening within the ISO structure. And this really PDCA cycle was developed by Deming, who was a authority on quality. And this shows all the elements of the ISO. And on the right side, I've identified the clauses. This is directly out of the ISO 9000 requirements, is the clauses. It starts with chapter or clause 4. The first 3 clauses are basically introduction, definition of terms, and so on. So the real meat of it starts with 4. And so the clauses really are related on the diagram, and you can then see how those clauses interact. Obviously, starting with 4, which defines the context of the organization, and this deals with both external and internal forces, let's call it, and obviously interested parties, which are your customers, your suppliers, the regulatory organizations, and so on. They drive, along with your customer requirements, they drive the planning phase, which this is where your QMS uh, plans are being developed. Okay, and part of the planning phase is a risk analysis. This is a new requirement with the 2015 standard that you have to analyze the risks that affect in any part of your organization. Once you have the plan, so the QMS set up, then you proceed with section 7 and 8, which is support and operations. Support is all the infrastructure, includes personnel, equipment, the test equipment that you need, anything that is required to run your operation. And obviously, the operation is the development of your service, your product is all part of that. Then once you do that, you perform or you develop your product and service. Then you go to section 9, which is performance evaluation, and this is done at all levels, both internally and externally. You evaluate how your product or service is doing. Are there any problems with your product? Any deficiencies? And so you have to continuously evaluate, check, get feedback from your customer, and that's part of the check process, which then feeds into the 10th clause, improvement, which then you look at and using evidence on real data, what to do to make the improvements, and then you act and you go back into planning. Now this continuously you stay in that loop, and you could have many parallel loops going on at the same time. And notice that right in the middle, number 5, which is leadership or management, controls everything. And that's the key, is that management should be aware what is going on with any part of your ISO process. Okay, so now how do you achieve ISO certification? Now, yes, you can set up your organization to be ISO-like. In other words, adopt all of the ISO features, and you should be able to get improvements that way. But here I'm talking about getting the official certification from a certification body, or sometimes they're called registrars. And that will give you the actual plaque, and then you officially, once you get the certification, can advertise that in your literature. So in order to achieve that certification, you have to have you have to implement a QMS, quality management system, that meets the requirements of ISO 9001. And you have to operate it for some time, could be a few months, to show the auditor, when he comes for the audit, that you are using your quality management system. That now, once you believe that you're ready to be certified, you have to select the certification body that will perform an audit of your organization to see that you are meeting all of the QMS requirements. And here I kind of point out that there are quite a few registrars available, but you should try to select one that is most familiar with your product line, because that really helps. It really shortens the time of the audit, and you have a much easier uh, level degree of communication with the auditor. Now, before you invite the auditor to come in, you will do an internal audit to make sure that you do meet all of your processes, and that you have all of the required records available. Management must do also conduct a formal review of the processes and they demonstrate that they are involved in the entire ISO process. Also, you have to show that you have a corrective action process that identifies the root causes of the problems, and that all those activities are documented and a resolution is identified that does correct the problem. So when you think that your process is operational, you then call in the certification body to come in, and it's always done in two stages. Stage one is a short review for a let's say small to medium sized company would take maybe less than a day. And at that point, he or she will determine that yes, you're ready for the formal audit, or no, that you have to do some additional steps to do the formal review or audit. And then stage two comes, and that's at least a 2-day audit where the auditor goes through all of your data, records, talks to obviously management, and he or she may talk to some of the employees. And at that point, if you are successful, there may be action items that need to be addressed and resolved. And once that's done, then you're actually given the certification. Now, once you've achieved your certification, now you have to maintain it. It's not like, well, okay, I got my certification, and then I can go back to my old ways and do whatever I want to. No. You have to make sure that whatever your policies, your processes and procedures are, that you follow them. And every year you have to do an audit, and it's not an extensive audit, but it's still a review by the auditor to make sure that you following your QMS. And usually the auditor reviews the results of your internal audit, which has to be done at least once a year. So if your internal audit is very thorough, then your audit with the registrar becomes a lot simpler. An important part of it is to see that the management has regular meetings and that action items are assigned and they're resolved, that all your documentation is current and it's controlled, again, per your process for procedures, that all your records are up to date, that you maintain records, and that they're readily available to the auditor. So it should be all hopefully in a database that's available to show, whether you have a number of different departments that have, all the data scattered throughout the organization, but the record should be readily accessible. And as I mentioned, that's a yearly review with the certification body. And now I'm going to kind of identify how the QDMS tool that Kevin mentioned earlier can really help you in both achieving ISO certification and maintaining it. I was very, very impressed when I came across this tool, which is back, it was about last summer. I mean, this is in doing my work in supporting various organizations to achieve ISO certification. One thing that I was not did not have available is a tool that could help you, maintain all the data and make sure that all of your internal functions are working properly. And I was extremely impressed with the capabilities of QDMS. And that's why I became last summer a solutions partner for QBMS, where I can certainly help organizations apply the QBMS tool in their activities. But so, as Kevin mentioned before, QDMS supports all ISO systems, okay? Whether it's ISO 9000 or 14000, whatever. It does support all of them. It's a very friendly tool, and it does not depend now on any particular individual because it's all based on Oracle database. So it's wherever the data is coming from, it's all centralized. And also it covers all of the aspects of quality management system, but it's a modular program. So if you're a smaller organization and you don't need all of the features of the QDMS tool, well, you only either purchase or lease the modules that you really need in your particular organization. As I mentioned before, all the data is maintained in a single database for easy access, and it's scalable, support all business sizes, whether you're a very small organization or a very large organization. It's scalable to support your business. And it's also very, very, very flexible because it's your choice. You can either operate it on the cloud or on a local server. And it has an app for both iOS and Android, so you can use access the information from your phone. And as Kevin mentioned, it has very positive references from major international corporations. And Anderson will go into more detail about how the QDMS operates. Okay, it's basically a summary. And ISO 9000, I think, has impacted a lot of organizations and companies all over the world because it's a worldwide standard, and it has sort of formulated the adoption of other standards which are specialized in various areas, and the confidence that you would have as an organization in ISO 9001 is a very important tool to develop your own internal processes and obviously improve the quality and service to your customer. And as I mentioned before, ISO 9001 and with the latest standard is 2015 gives you a lot of flexibility in creating your QMS. So if nobody's telling you what to do things, but it just tells you, hey, you define your processes and how you do your things, and then you look at now ways of improving and making those processes more efficient. So it gives you better integration with other business activities. It spreads the responsibilities of really quality of the QMS through the entire organization. So almost every employee should be aware of what the goals are, and each employee in his or her own area would have to know what part of the QMS they're trying to fulfill. It used to be that the older version of ISO, the 2008 version, had a management representative. So basically, that task was delegated to a management representative, and top management could have gotten away from not really getting involved in ISO. But now, that management representative position got eliminated from the 2015 standard, and now management is responsible for the implementation of the QMS. As I mentioned before, there's a new requirement for the 2015 standard, is the risk-based thinking. And again, that's part of planning because any organization should be aware or should at least identify what are some of the top-level risks, and then how to deal with them. You may have to mitigate them. You may have to maybe ignore them, but you should be aware of what they are. And I think that this is a very important addition that makes the organization much more effective. And of course, there always has been, but now it's higher emphasis on performance monitoring. Okay? You have to monitor your work, the results of your work, and how you intend to make improvements. And again, as Anderson will address this shortly, QDMS is the ideal tool to support your entire ISO quality management system. Well, I guess this is it for me. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Alex. Much appreciated. Thank you for the great presentation. Well, it's always good to know about the fundamentals, right? So that's very, very helpful for us. And also, Alex is also part of ASQ, American Society for Quality, and also he presents ISO 9001 related speeches or presentations in various venues of ASQ. So it's great to learn from Alex in regards to ISO 9001. Thank you, Alex. Much appreciated. So please stay with us. We have a Q&A session at the end, so I'm sure we're going to have some questions for you so you can address them if that's okay. Thank you very much. So now I'd like to turn it to our pre-sales software engineer, Anderson Wayne. So he'll be addressing QDMS, our Quality, Risk and Compliance Management Software. Now we have the foundational information regarding ISO 9001. Let's see how we can comply electronically in a digital environment with no need of paper, with no need of emailing. So everything is going to be nice and organized, and it's going to be recorded for future retrieval and use and recordable. So I'm going to let Anderson take it from you. Anderson, thank you.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. I would like to, first off, thank you, Alex, for having your time here today to inform everybody about the ISO 9001 and what it entails. And also, thank you for your support for QDMS. Yes, so without further ado, the following slides is going to talk about QDMS, which is Bimser International's Integrated Quality, Risk, and Compliance Management System. Is no different from any other QMS system, but it does target a lot of the quality management principles that we had discussed earlier. It really helps all companies abide principles while ensuring that their processes abide to quality standards. QDMS is a modular product, meaning that there are several products that a company can independently purchase and choose from. In this sense, it is very flexible and scalable. You can choose to start small, and this product will actually grow with your company. QDMS is very easy to use and very easy to deploy. Just like our other products, we can work on-premise. We can also be deployed on cloud. The user interface and how all the modules are functioned in QDMS are very easy. It's very consistent. How it works is you can purchase as many modules as you like. And once you learn how to, and get the hang of one of them, the rest are very similar in essence. QDMS is a product where All the actions will require minimal, in fact, no coding skills at all. So with this, you can easily train your users to use QDMS as well as reduce any technical costs and support. But most importantly, QDMS is a document management system. And with that said, it really helps with your digital transformation. So any processes that may be on paper right now, you can easily transition into the digital world with QDMS. This slide is presenting our top QDMS modules. These are the modules that are very popular. We see typically these are the modules that are purchased. We will begin from the top left. We have the document management module. This is the core of QDMS. In fact, it is QDMS at its prime. With the document management module, it is ensuring that all documents in creation, distribution, review, or approval, they undergo quality standards. Also, thanks to the QDMS system, it provides a very nice corporate memory that anybody can access through their login. After that, we have our customer complaints module. These are one of the modules that we have that are very geared towards improvement and customer focused. With it, you can receive complaints, whether they be internal or external, meaning from employees or customers and vendors. And with these complaints, you can seek opportunities to improve. It's a way to take note of when a complaint comes in so that you can refer to it later on. You can choose to open up a CAPA from there. So the next module we have is the CAPA. CAPA stands for Corrective and Preventive Actions. In essence, it is a way to identify nonconformities and also devise plans to take care of them through root cause analysis. Very important for any team who comes in. Maybe they receive a complaint, or maybe somebody sees a chance to improve. They can actually devise a plan to take care of these complaints or improvements, and also keep note of them within the system. Next, we have the audit management module. Any company can undergo multiple audits throughout a year. For example, you might be using you might need a periodic audit to perform to maintain your ISO certification. Within this module, you can actually assign a particular user or an employee to perform these audits periodically. So there is no worry that you will forget to perform an audit. Within the module, you can also assign which questions that are to be asked during the audit when it is performed. And if the performer of the audit seems to find an issue or a way that the audit can be better, they can actually report their findings from this module itself. And at the very end, you can also generate a report showing that your findings from the audit. The next column starts off with the action management module. I like to call this the typical task manager, but it is much more than that. You can assign all users to particular tasks, and the start date and the due date of these tasks will be noted and logged within QDMS's system. You can also set these tasks to be periodic, whether it be to attend meetings. Also, the frequency of these the frequency of the tasks, whether they are assigned or not, will also be taken note in the system. This is actually very good for the long term when actions go complex. You can make a action plan. Within the action plan, you can have sub actions. So everything is very organized and structural in the system in that sense. After we have the survey module is also a very good way to seek improvement. You can receive feedback very quickly within QDMS, whether it be from your employees or your customers, and from there you can get more information on how to improve. After we have the training module, the module is very good for devising a training plan and assigning who is in charge of training, who is participating in the training. You can also take attendance and generate a report. After that, the calibration module. The calibration module Very simply, if anything needs to be calibrated periodically, you can likewise assign somebody to take care of that calibration. Now, this right side of modules is all risk management modules. These are the ones that are very geared and specialized for particular quality standards. Just to name a few, just the ISO 14001 is all about the environment and the negative impacts on that. So we have a module that is specialized towards that. We also have other modules specialized towards health and safety, occupational health and safety hazards, as well as security and information with the IT asset management module. But enough talk, we can actually, I have ready for us a demonstration environment for us to look at, just to get a sense of how QDMS feels when you log in. So I'm going to log into a typical end user. And right off the bat, when you log in, you will be at your home screen. And from the home screen, this is where you see all of your pending tasks. And these are classified depending on the company's definitions. And the classifications are also determined by which modules a company purchases. So as you can see, if I go into the main menu, this user we have is assigned to be able to access these particular modules. What's very nice about the general interface of QDMS is that there is a search and filter function for you to review all of your documentation. So for example, I can type in recipe, and surely enough, within the system, there is a document called recipe. So that's very nice. It's a quick document search for you. You can click into the tasks. You'll see what are assigned, what is assigned, when they are due. And you can actually go into the document viewer to find a nice corporate memory, as mentioned earlier. It's a very wonderful folder structure, and it is all ensured in quality. And that is the brief overview of how QDMS runs in the demonstration. I would like to ask if there are any questions. If not,
okay, let's see. Thank you, Anderson.
Thank you.
So let's see our questions. Well, we have a couple of questions, some for Alex, some for Anderson. So let's see what we have here in terms of the question. So one of them looks like for Alex, and one of them is how long does it take for a company to become ISO 9001 certified? What is the duration for having the certification? Alex, would you like to answer?
Sure. And it's a very good question, because it really depends on the state of the company. Some companies have already, maybe they're not formally ISO certified, but they're very, very close to achieving formal certification. And then, it may just require some fine tuning, maybe, and just a dry run before the audit comes in. So I think it could take maybe as little as 3 months to get the certification. However, if the organization lacks any elements of that's required by ISO, then it could take a year or more, depending on the commitment of the top management and how much top management is willing to devote time to come up with all the processes and then all the requirements of ISO.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you. By the way, attention to our attendees. Well, on the screen right now, you can see our contact information. So for future reference, if you like to ask any more questions after this session, or if you like to schedule a demo meeting, for instance, you see our contact information at the moment. So feel free to contact us via email or via phone, please feel free. So I'll keep these contact information on the screen while we are addressing the questions. Another question looks like for you, Anderson. Is there any mobile app available for QDMS?
Yes, yes. The answer is there is mobile application for QDMS, much like any of our other products with Bimser International. For example, with QDMS, because it is all web-based, you can actually enter from your web browser or through the mobile app. And this mobile app is Android and iOS compatible, correct? Thank you for asking.
Thank you, Anderson. Let me see. I am also getting some questions also in the chat box, so I'm also looking at those, solving them. Okay, so another question for you, Anderson. QDMS works on cloud and on-premise servers as well?
The answer to that is yes. We can accommodate for any type of deployment, whether it is for on cloud or on premise. That is not to be a concern when implementing QDMS with your company.
Thank you, Anderson. I have a couple more questions looks like it's for Alex. One of the questions, is it okay to practice ISO 9001 but not having the certification? I think we had some questions similar to these during the ASQ meeting as well. So, I mean, imagine a company, they actually practice ISO in their day-to-day operations. However, they are not certified. Would it be okay, or would you recommend this? That's the question. Alex, thanks.
Yes. Well, the important thing is that if they following the ISO guidelines, but are not formally certified, and obviously that's already a lot of the work has been done. And generally, formal certification, the real reason is, as I mentioned before, some customers do require you to be ISO certified to do any business. Another reason is that top management may say, okay, or the owner of the organization may say, okay, I want you to be now ISO certified. In that case, it's actually a relatively small effort to get there. Okay, but I think the important thing is, to have already most of the ISO structure in place, and I think that that's a big step towards getting certification. So if any company would like to improve their performance, then I suggest they don't really want to get the formal certificate, adopt at least some or most of the ISO requirements. And I think that they will see an improvement in their performance.
Thank you, Alex. So you can practice ISO, but if your clients are asking for you to have the ISO 9001 certification, then you're going to have to, you better basically have it. That is an important point. Also, Alex, earlier during your presentation, you mentioned about audit management. So, once we have the system in place in terms of the quality management system, then a company is supposed to audit themselves internally. Do you have any suggestions or recommendations in terms of how to conduct these internal audits in any organization compliant with ISO? I'm assuming they also have the certification. What would they do? What they should be careful about?
Okay, Kevin, I think it's a very good question, because an internal audit could be done either with your employees, or you can actually hire an external, auditor. Obviously is not associated with a certification body, but just an external auditor that will almost act like a auditor from a certification body. But the point is that the purpose of the audit is to make sure that your QMS is implemented, and it can be assigned to employees as long as the individual that's auditing a certain part of the QMS is not auditing his or her own work. It has to be work done from outside of the group. So, for example, if they're auditing, let's say, the training records, well, they got to make sure that the training records that are being audited are from outside of his or her department, and same thing for all the other processes. But you could have assigned several internal auditors to perform the job, and again, how the job is performed, I think the QDMS tool will really help you in covering all of the areas of the QDMS that you are complying with. Because again, under QDMS, you can have some exclusions based on your business, but those requirements that apply to your business, then they have to be obviously audited.
Thank you, Alex. So audit and audit management is pretty important for any ISO 9001 compliant companies.
Yes, and I just want to add that when the auditor comes back to do the audit, he looks at the audit result, the internal audit results.
I think that's a very important tip. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. For companies to make their conduct their own internal audits, record it, document it, and if there is any certification related inspection going on, audit going on, then you can easily present it to the ISO 9001 auditor, and it shows what has been actually seen during the audit, what kind of actions have been taken, or corrective and preventive actions have been taken. So it's good to have these not only for, of course, certification purposes, also for continuous improvement and making sure that there is customer satisfaction in the end of the company's operations, basically, because that's the most important thing: continuous improvement and customer satisfaction. Thank you, Alex. I appreciate it. So I have actually one last question. It looks like a little bit technical. So QDMS looks pretty user-friendly. How long does it take to implement it and start using it in an organization? And how is the training conducted? So it depends on how many. I can answer it, Anderson, if you don't mind. So it depends on how many modules you go for, because just like Anderson mentioned and also Alex mentioned earlier, QDMS, quality, risk and compliance management software, it is actually modular, meaning you do not have to buy, you don't have to get the entire suite, you don't have to get the entire product, you just get the pieces that you need. So in essence, for us to implement, for us to install one module, it takes 1 day for us. That's the technical part of it. In terms of the training and configuration part of it, you can still think that the training may take up to 1 day for each module. So if you have for a typical ISO 9001 set of modules of QDMS, we are talking about 10 days, 12 days kind of installation and training time frame. That is, I will say, an average. So it's pretty quick, and just like Anderson briefly presented to you, it is pretty user-friendly and pretty simplified solution to make it easy. As a matter of fact, when I was at the ASP event earlier with Alex, we get that question as well. I mean, what is the ideal type or ideal size of for QDMS for any company to use the QDMS? Basically, that was the question that I got. Well, so the QDMS is scalable. Basically, we have clients with 50 users, 50 employees. We have clients with 10,000 employees. So the product is scalable. Therefore, any company starting 50 employees and up easily can use it. And again, there is a modular product, so you can just start with certain modules and you can basically scale up if there is any. And if you are an enterprise organization, again, that's not a problem for QDMS to handle. Well, it looks like we address all our questions. I'm gonna double check my chat box. Some of the questions coming in to me directly, not in the public box. So yeah, it looks like we answered all the questions. Well, that's great. Well, we appreciate it. Thank you for joining our webinar. We appreciate it, and thank you also to our panel. I'd like to also share one more information before I end this webinar. We have also webinars coming up next month. On March 13th, we have a webinar on how to manage contracts in the digital world. So we'll talk about how to manage contracts, how to internally manage, internally review and record, and what to be careful about when contracting with any other organization or individual. So we'll be talking about that on March 13th, that you can also find the information on our page on Eventbrite. And the following week on March 27th, we'll talk about digital transformation. And we'll also talk about QDMS, our quality, risk and compliance management software in the scope of digital transformation. So please feel free to register for these webinars as well. We look forward to seeing you there. And I would like to thank you again for your time and interest in our webinar, and looking forward to seeing you in our coming webinars. Thank you very much and have a nice day.